Hello, everyone. My name is Lina Ghalib, and I'd like to introduce my research topic for our course today. And it's the titled "A Contemporary Analysis of the Date Palm Tree with the Latin name of Phoenix dactylifera and its uses as a sustainable interior product." So the content are very straightforward. We're going to go through an understanding of the date palm tree and its importance and its historical connotations and cultural ones at that. We're going to go through the problem of the residues that are being produced by the tree. And how is it creating an issue both in Egypt and in UAE? And we're going to go through a literature review of current different solutions of how we can use this waste in different methods. And then lastly, there will be the research study that I deducted with interior designers here in the UAE about this possibility of new materials. So the Phoenix dactylifera is commonly known as a date palm, and it's a flowering plant species in the palm family Acaceae, cultivated for its edible sweet fruits called dates. Now, dates are the oldest fruit crop grown today, and they are a primary source of revenue and a staple meal for local population to any areas that they are grown in, such as Africa, Middle East, and South Asia. And because mainly in Middle East, it's very important because they are tolerant to salty and alkaline soils, and they thrive in hot and dry conditions. It's actually said that the date palm grows with its feet in the water and head in the fire. So this is an old proverb. Mainly, its importance is due to the fact that it's rich in minerals, vitamin B, proteins, and fibers. Now, three of the main factors of the byproducts of the date palm tree are why is it important to be grown? First of all, the most important thing is for the dates, like we mentioned just earlier, how important they are for the local community as well as in terms of nutrition. So that's why Middle Eastern countries and some African countries they like to grow the date palm tree. So it's an important form of nutrition. Second byproduct is the seeds that come out of the dates. So once people eat the dates, they throw away the seeds, and these seeds can actually be used as soil fertilizer or supplemental feed for livestock and poultry. And actually, the extractions of the date pit or the date seed oil is very important because it can be used, for example, against protection of UV light for the skin, and it also can be used in production of mayonnaise. And the third is the leaves production that are grown on the branches of the palm tree, and their petioles can be used also to feed the livestock, and they are traditionally used to to create mats and baskets in the Middle East, and we're gonna dive into this connotation a bit further. So, while the research today topic focuses on the date palm midrib, we will be diving into other byproducts in by the date palm tree, but the main one that we will be focusing on is the date palm midrib. Now, the date palm midrib is actually the thin line or the stem of the branch itself. So the thin inner part of the branch itself, and the strongest one is called the date palm midrib, and this is what it looks like when it's been taken down and cut off the tree and shaven from its leaves. Now, the branches are not cut down just for the sake of creating a material or creating a product, not like bamboo. Actually, date palm pruning is actually beneficial for the date palm tree itself because on a yearly basis, the date palm tree grows 12 to 15 new leaves, which is like the branches, and the act of pruning assists with the growth of or its rate of growth and its ability to grow the dates itself and the fertilization, etc. So, actually, lack of pruning can overburden the palm tree with old leaves that absorb some of the tree's nutrients. It can increase the risk of the insect infection. It can increase the risk of flammability, etc. So, pruning of the date palm tree or cutting down of the branches is actually very important for the date palm tree to grow. Now, historically, because of the amount of palm trees that are have been grown in the Middle East is usually because of the palm tree's ability to grow in hot weather and not needing a lot of water to grow. So that's why historically, around 50 years ago, people in the UAE used the date palm trees branches to the best of their abilities to create structures of homes and shelters. Um, and so we can see that the palm midribs in the first photo were used for the walls, and they were rid of all the leaves on them, and they were connected together by using rope fibers made also from the palm trees leaves. So they were connected together to create the walls, and for the roof structures, they were also connected in the same manner, and also used branches with the leaves on them to allow for protection against wind or sun or even sometimes rainfall. Now, in Egypt, it was used, the palm midribs were used historically a bit differently, where they were also mainly rid of leaves completely, but they were connected in form of lattices to create furniture pieces. So, and by lattices, I mean that each midrib was punctured with holes to be connected only with another midrib to form these X or zigzag shapes. And this formed the structure of the whole chair or table or birdcage. So they were punctured, each midrib was punctured and connected with another midrib. So there was no use of steel, nails, or metal, or any other, or glue, or any adhesive whatsoever. Unlike, for example, here in the UAE, where the midribs were connected using rope fibers. Here they were just punctured through. So for us to understand what the issue is exactly, and or the size of the issue, we need to understand how many palm trees are we talking about that we have to prune on a yearly basis, and how much is the residue, the agricultural residue that is coming out of that. So there is 120 million palm trees that is produced that exists in the world, and 40 million of them are in the UAE alone. Now, each tree creates, due to the seasonal pruning, which is the cutting down of the branches, it creates around 20 kgs of agricultural waste per tree per year. So now, if we were to multiply that by the total amount of trees in the UAE, we would come up with a number of 881,853 tons per year of agricultural waste just from the tree, just from pruning it on a yearly basis. But the main focus of our research today is the palm midrib itself. So 32% of the waste that is cut from the tree is the palm midrib. So that makes up for 282,183 tons per year of waste. And this waste ends up in the landfills. So they're hardly using it nowadays for any modern application. So if you are, it's difficult for you to imagine this number. Just imagine 141,000 cars on top of each other in a landfill. So of course, it's a very big problem uh, in terms of sustainability, because everything in the landfill just ends up being burnt, which is not sustainable. Now, if we were to compare it to what is in Egypt, because the literature review that I am going to offer is mainly supported by scientists and engineers in Egypt, and I would like to take what is being produced in Egypt and apply it here in the UAE. So 14 million trees in Egypt exist, palm trees, and that means that 105,056 tons per year of midrib waste is being produced and going to the landfills. Now, there is a statistic that 10% of these midribs or branches are being sold to craftsmen, but the other 90% is being burnt, which is very harmful to our environment. So, in Egyptian literature, they were able to use the palm tree residues for production of wood substitutes, and which can reduce the dependency on wood as a source of wood material. So they cut down the palm midrib to its core to create these palm strips, and then they use an adhesive to connect them together to create palm boards. Now, the chemical composition of the palm midribs has been tested by scientists, and it has proven that it has a strong capability for adhesions. That's why it can create a strong material in terms of as a wood substitute. And out of these palm boards, they were able to create test cases of palm furniture. Now, when I say that it can reduce wood, we actually need to look at some numbers. So it has the date palm midrib panels, or boards have been tested against spruce wood and beech wood in terms of tensile strength, compressive strength, and bonding strength. And we can see for first of all, the bonding strength is very comparable to that of beech wood and it's very close to it. The compressive strength is also between spruce wood and beech wood and is higher than softwood and almost the same and also higher than hardwood. And the tensile strength is also higher than spruce wood and very comparative to that of beech wood. And for us, when we talk about tensile strength, it's very important to understand that there's a difference between the outer layer of the midrib and the inner layer. So the outer layer actually has comparative results with steel, the tensile strength of steel, proving that it actually is a very strong material. So let's dive into a contemporary design applications of the date palm tree waste. We will focus first on the midribs and then we will dive into other byproducts that are created by the pruning residues. So as we saw that the date palm boards can create furniture pieces and it was tested in Egypt. But we can see that the date palm boards are used in a sort of 2D manner. So they create boards and they just cut them into rectangular pieces or squared pieces to create tabletops, cabinets, or even chairs. But actually, I tested using this method 2 years ago where I created this bench. It's called the Yerid bench and it uses the connections of the lattices that were made by the Egyptians. So they are pieces of the date palm wood board. But instead of cutting them in a two-dimensional manner, they are actually sculpted using the CNC machine and they are glued in different compositions, creating different textures. And the reason we can see that there is a lot of discoloration between the branches is because here I've collected the branches that have been sitting out in the sun for a very long time and in the heat. So of course there is a discoloration in the branches due to bacteria and termites, etc. In comparison to the two-tonal the discoloration from the date palm midribs panels in Egypt. So it also has been proven that the date palm midribs can be used as parquet for flooring. So they can be used as parquet boards, where if they are in a size of 70 centimeters by 60 mm, with a thickness of 8 mm for each piece, they were sent to a parquet factory to create the groove and tongue assembly and finishes. And also they were tested against various humidity levels, which indicated that the changes in their longitudinal dimension and their thicknesses and their width are very comparable to those of oak or beech, which proves that the date palm midribs can be used as a sustainable wood parquet alternative. So it can be used for flooring and for furniture. And this is for the date palm midribs when they are cut down. Another part of the residual waste of the date palms is the leaves. So the leaves out of the pruning residues is actually 26% of the waste of each tree, while the midribs are 32%. So in this example, there are two designers who created stools created made out of clay, and they are surrounded by something called khus, which is dried leaves and that are woven together to create sort of like back then they were used to create mats, place mats, and also they were used for the ceiling structures of the homes. So they recreated this by creating small strips that surround each stool and also as seating cushions for each stool. And they dyed them in natural colors. There's also another example where they wrapped the whole chair seat with the woven dried palm leaves. As you can see, these are the woven sections at the top, and then they were left to be unwoven to create this aesthetic. Uh, so, although we can use the date palm midrib by cutting it and create and cut and using adhesives to create a board, however, the date palm midribs can also be used in their natural state. So once you just cut off the leaves, and they were used in the old historic houses and structures. They were connected using rope fibers. So architect Abdullah al-Mulla created this souk, or in Arabic, it's Arabic for local market. For Hermes, for their Dubai Mall store, they had a pop-up for sustainable use of their leather waste by creating products. So he created a design to mimic the local market by using date palm midribs in their natural state, and he bent them to be used in the roof structure using humid controlled methods. And they were all connected using fiber ropes. And we can see that in the wall partitions, although the ceiling is supported by timber posts, but the timber frames are filled with small cuts, short cuts of the date palm midribs themselves. So this is a reminder that the date palm midribs can be used for wall panels or partitions in interior spaces. And this has been proven by um, engineers Iman Darwish and Ayman Mustafa from Ain Shams University in Egypt, where they created the PEWP, which is a prefabricated enclosure wall panel called the Mod Palma. And it's completely made out of date palm midribs with no supporting timber frame. And building a full-size panel and doing a finite element method structural analysis of the executed features were used to estimate construction efficiency, which proved that the freestanding panel made by craftsmen demonstrated great sturdiness, longevity, and workability and coherence. So it can be used in specific interior spaces as an enclosure wall or a partition space. Um, Other than the midribs and the leaves, we can actually talk again about the dates seeds that are considered a waste in the UAE. So while here people locally consume a lot of dates, they throw a lot of seeds as well because it's not edible. So 750,000 tons of date seeds waste are created in the UAE on a yearly basis, and they are used by two small local startups called Datecrete and Dateform. Datecrete actually is a alternative to concrete, and they don't use so they use um, the capabilities of the modest date seed and focus on the byproduct of date stoning. And they don't use any resin or acrylics or concrete to create this. So it's actually their little secret, because they both are scientists. And the mechanical properties of the seeds are used in the finished substance. So it has a smooth texture as well as cultural significance, making it a viable local alternative to Portland cement. So the datecrete can be used in furniture products. It can be used also, in my opinion, as countertops finishes, or even for wall finishes as well, but mainly as countertops. I actually visited to see the mirror console that they created for the Dubai Design Week last year, and it's very strong. So the second one is the date form, which uses the roasted dates and kind of blended together to create a fine, thin, unique surface material that is topped on top of a plywood substrate, which I can also be used for furniture pieces. It can be molded into different products, and it can be used for countertops, flooring, tiling system, wall cladding, shelving units, furniture, and other products. Now, for the research study, mainly, I focused on gathering, sending out a survey to a group of interior designer companies that are foreigners, not local, so as to not have any biased opinion. And I was able to, I wanted to ask them about how much do they kind of consider sustainability in their interior design project. And 50% of them confirmed that less than 10% of their projects use sustainable materials, and the other 50% said that between 15 to 20% of their projects use sustainable materials, which is obviously a number that we kind of need to increase. And the reason that I focused on that is because Dubai has actually a booming construction market, because of its remarkable population growth. For example, like experts estimate that there's going to be a need for 550,000 residential units just to accommodate the projected population of 5.4 million by the year 2040. So obviously there's a booming need for interior designers in the market in Dubai, which means that we need to come up with more sustainable materials for interior designers to use. So after asking them these questions, I kind of explained to them about the material that I tested out here in the UAE using the literature review from Egypt. And I asked them if they prefer the longitudinal texture that is produced by the date palm midribs glued stacked together and side by side, or the cross grain texture that is produced from if you cut the board from the side. And 70% preferred the longitudinal texture, 30% preferred the cross grain texture, especially they liked it as to be used as a tabletop material. So after testing this and seeing their responses, I actually wanted to know also if they think that the material can be used on its own, or if it should be combined with a luxurious type of metal or wood. And 80% of them agreed that it should be paired with another material to kind of relate to the market here. And after again the responses towards the textures, because 100% of them said that they would like to see a texture combination between the longitudinal and the cross sectional. So I created this sample just last week actually, where the the whole sample piece is an adhesive between angled side by side palm midribs glued together, and also a line of the cross sectional texture contrasted with again another angle of the palm midribs, just for us to kind of see what it would look like and how it can be applied towards furniture pieces or countertops of tables or kitchens, etc., in interior spaces. So basically, the conclusion is that palm fronds, although they were used historically to provide shelter and functional furniture, it's important to preserve whatever is left of the culture and history, but in a modern manner. Sometimes we need to look back to be able to pave the way forward, and we need to take the initiative first by saving the branches from reaching landfills and being burned. That can later bring about the interest of the public to grow more palm trees. And this is again applicable in Dubai because it's a hub of accelerated new construction projects. So it's a material, and it's a new material, and a various the date palm tree itself can produce a lot of byproducts that can be used in interior applications. Now, the research limitation is because the studies are all being performed in Egypt, so there are no studies on the qualities or mechanical or chemical tests done on the material. Although I was able to create the material in 2020, I wanted to call it Plypon because of its discoloration. I really liked the discoloration that it was created. But there are no equipped factories here in the UAE, unfortunately, that can automate the process, same as in Egypt, without risking the welfare of the workers. So this is something I would like to see being evolved in the future. And in further research, I'd like scientists to duplicate the mechanical properties test, and then also carry out physical application of the pipe-on wooden material as a as potential flooring, or even to produce veneers in interior settings. So studying veneers is something I'm very interested in studying. And then also physical tests can be done on the material itself to test for signs of abrasions and instructions for care for the material itself for future purposes and for long time use. So this can help clients to be encouraged to use the material and trust it in their applications. So again, sustainable materials are sometimes a bit scary for us as interior designers to use because we're not aware of how strong they are, or how quickly they can, or their signs of abrasions by time. So this is something that I would like to do to kind of encourage interior designers to use. So that's all. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. Sorry for speaking very quickly, but I couldn't get it under more like less information. It's a very interesting topic to know about, and there's much more written out in my paper that you can find on Miro. So please head there and have a read. There's a lot of interesting information to be read. Thank you so much, and uh, happy break.